disturbing me. In fact, I'd much rather talk to you than work. Yet here I am, day after day, consumed with one thought. I must write. I must write. I must write. This is my study, the room in which I do my writing. I built it myself, actually. Cut all the log and fit the timbers. Made a terrible mess of it. I do my writing over here, at the side of the room, because the desk was built right underneath a hole in the ceiling, and I can't move the desk because it covers up a hole in the floor. And the floor is built on the side of a hill. So in heavy rains, it tends to slide down. Many of the days I've stood at my window and passed my neighbors in the street. But still, I'm happy here. But I don't get enough visitors to suit me. People tend to shy away from writers. They assume we're always busy thinking. Not true. But even my dear sweet mother tiptoes up the stairs and leaves my food outside the doors not to disturb me. I haven't had a hot meal in years. But I've done a good deal of writing out here too. Perhaps too much. Sometimes I look out my window and I think that my life is passing me by at a furious rate. And I ask myself, what force is it that drives me to write so incessantly, day after day, page after page, story after story? Well, the answer is quite simple. I have no choice. I'm a writer. Sometimes I think I might be mad. Oh, I'm quite harmless. And I do admit to fits of wandering. Sometimes in a conversation, I hear nothing, and see only a silent moving of lips, and respond with a meaningless, yes, yes, of course. All the while I'm thinking, he'll make a wonderful character for a story, this one. Still, when I'm writing, I enjoy it, and I like reading the proofs too. But as soon as it appears in print, I can't stand it. I see a mistake. Something's wrong, and it ought to have never been written. And I am miserable. Then the public reads it. Yes, charming, clever, but a far cry from Tolstoy. Or, a fine thing, but Turgenev's Fathers and Sons was better. And so will be to my dying day. And when I do die, my friends will pass by my tombstone and say, here lies so-and-so, a good writer, but Turgenev was better. Funny, but before you came in, I was thinking to myself, perhaps I should give it all up. But what would I do instead? Well, I've never freely admitted this before. To you here in the audience tonight, I'm going to tell you what I'd most likely do with my life if I weren't a writer. Ever since I was a little child, I always Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just making a note. An idea for a new short story. I'm sorry. What were we talking about? No matter. My thoughts are consumed with this new story. It starts in a theater. It starts on the opening night of a new season. It starts with the arrival of all the dear, devoted pages of the arts, commenting on how this one looks and how, ooh, that one's dressed. Scarcely no one in the play they're about to see. With the exception of one man, Ivan Ilyich Cherdyakov. Now, Ivan Ilyich Cherdyakov, a civil servant, a clerk in the Ministry of Public Parks, had any passion in life at all, it was surely the theater. He also had his hopes of higher office, and had dedicated his life to hard work, patience, and zeal. Still, he would not deny himself his one true pleasure. So that night he purchased 2 tickets for he and his wife the very best section of the theater for the opening night of Rose Hobbs, the Bearded Countess. And as fortune would have it, into the theater that night came his respected superior, General Mikhail Grasilov, Minister of Public Parks himself.
Good evening, General.
What? Oh, yes. Good evening.
Permit me, sir. I'm Sheryakov, Ivan Ilyich. This is a great honor for me, sir.
Yes.
Like yourself, dear General, I too serve the Ministry of Public Parks. That is to say, I serve you, who is indeed himself the Minister of Public Parks. I am the Assistant Chief Clerk in the Department of Trees and Bushes.
Ah, yes. Lovely trees and bushes this year. Keep up the good work. Very nice.
My wife would like very much to say hello, General. This is she, my wife, Madame Sheryakov.
How do you do?
My pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure, General.
How do you do?
Madame Brasilov, my wife, Madame Sheryakov.
How do you do, Madame Brasilov?
How do you do?
I just had the pleasure of meeting your husband.
And I am my wife's husband. How do you do, Madame Brasilov?
Sorry. Terribly sorry.
I hope you enjoy the play, sir.
I will, if I can watch it.
Feeling quite pleased with himself for making the most of such a golden opportunity, Cherdyakov sat back to enjoy the Bearded Countess. He and the general were no longer strangers. In fact, they had become, if you were to be generous about the matter, familiar with each other. But then, quite suddenly, without warning, like a bolt from a gray thundering sky, Cherdyakov reared his head back and...
Oh my goodness! I'm so terribly sorry, sir! So terribly sorry!
Never mind. It's all right.
All right? How can it be all right? It was unforgivable. Permit me to wipe your neck, sir.
Leave it be. It's all right, I say. You make too much of the matter. Let it rest.
How can I let it rest? It was an accident, I assure you. But it's disgusting.
Shh. I'm sorry. My apologies.
The thing is, Your Excellency, it came completely without warning. It was out of my nose before I could stifle it.
Shush!
It's not a cold, if that's what you're wondering. Probably just the particle of dust in the nostril.
But try as he might, Cherdyakov could not put the incident out of his mind. The sneeze, no more than an innocent anatomical accident, grew out of all proportions in his mind until it resembled the angry roar of a cannon aimed squarely at the enemy camp. Cherdyakov played the incident back in his mind, slowing the procedure down, to compute again, in horror, the infamous deed.
Charming.
Yes, charming.
Charming. Wasn't it charming, my dear?
I found it utterly charming.
I was completely charmed by it.
Excuse me, Your Excellency.
Hmm? Who's tapping? Somebody's tapping me. Who's that tapping?
I'm tapping, sir. I'm the tapper. Cherryakov.
Stand back, dear. It's a sneezer.
No, I'm all sneezed out now. I was just concerned about your going out into the night air with a damp head.
Oh, that. It was a trifle. A mere faux pas. Forget it, young man. Amusing play, don't you think? Did you find it amusing?
Using? Oh, yes. So true. I haven't laughed as much in years.
Which part interested you the most?
The sneeze. When I sneezed on you, sir, it was unforgivable.
Forget it, young man. Come, my dear. It looked like rain. I don't want to get my head wet again.
You shouldn't let people sneeze on you, dear. You're not to be sneezed at.
I'm ruined. I'm ruined. They'll have me fired from trees and bushes. They'll send me down to branches and twigs.
Come, Yvonne.
What?
You mustn't let it concern you. It was just a harmless little sneeze. The general's probably forgotten it already.
You really think so?
No? I'm scared, Yvonne.
And so they walked home in despair.
Maybe I should send him a nice gift. Perhaps some Turkish towels?
And one night, Cheryakov's once promising career had been literally blown away.
Oh, why did this happen to me? Why did we go to the theater at all? Why did we stay in the balcony with people of our own class? They love sneezing on each other.
It's Betty, Yvonne.
Perhaps, if I were to go to the general and explain matters to him in such a charming, honest, and self-effacing manner, he would have no choice but to forgive me.
Maybe it's best not to remind him.
No, no. If I ever expect a young gentleman, I must behave like one.
And so the morning came. It just so happened that today was the day that the general lists the petitions. And since there were 50 or 60 petitions ahead of Cherdyakov, he had to wait from morning till late afternoon.
Next. Next!
I'm not next, Your Excellency. I'm last.
Very well then. Last!
That's me, sir.
Well, what is your petition?
I have no petition, sir. I am not a petitioner.
Then you waste my time.
Do you not recognize me, Your Excellency? We met last night under rather explosive circumstances. I am the splatterer.
The what?
The sneezer, the one who sneezed, the sneezing splatterer.
Indeed. And what did you want now? A Gesundheit?
No, Your Excellency. Your forgiveness! I just wanted to point out that there was no political or anti-social motivation behind the scene. It was a non-partisan, non-violent act of God. I reversed the day the grocery first formed itself on my face. It's a hateful oath, sir. A hateful oath. And I am not responsible for its indiscretions. Not understand what committed the crime, but absolve the innocent body behind it. Exile my nose, so forgive me, Your Lordship. Forgive me.
My dear young man, I'm not angry with your nose. I'm too busy to have time for your nasal problems. I suggest you go home and take a hot bath, or a cold one. Take something. But don't bother me with this silly business again. Gibber, gibber, gibber. That's all I've heard all day. Gibber, 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 gibber.
Oh, God bless you, sir. God bless you and your wife and your household. May your days be sweet and may your nights be better than your days.
The feeling of relief that came over Cherdyakov was enormous.
May the bird sing at your window in the morning, and may the coffee in your cup be strong and hot.
The weight of the burden those lifted from his shoulders seemed inestimable.
I worship the chair you sit on, and I worship the uniform you wear that sits in the chair that I worship.
He walked home singing and whistling like a lark. Life was surely a marvel, a joy, a heavenly paradise.
Oh, God, I'm happy.
And yet,
And yet,
when he arrived home, Cherdyakov began to think.
have I been the butt of a cruel, thoughtless joke?
Had the minister toyed with him?
If he had no intention of punishing me, why did he torment me so unmercifully?
If the sneeze meant so little to the general, why did it deliberately cause Cherdyakov to writhe in his bed?
To twist in agony the entire night.
Cherdyakov was furious!
I am
He
furious!
foamed and fumed and paced the night through. When morning came, he called out to his wife, Sonia!
Sonia! I have been humiliated!
You, Yvonne? Who would humiliate you? You're such a kind and generous person.
Who? I'll tell you who. General Rasilov, the Minister of Public Arts.
What did he do?
Swine. He humiliated me in such subtle fashion it was almost indiscernible. His cunning is equal only to his cruelty. He practically forced me to come down to his office, to grovel and beg on my knees. I was reduced to a gibbering idiot!
You were that reduced?
I must go down to his office and tell him what I think of him. The lower classes must speak up. The world must be made safe so that men of all nations and creeds, regardless of color or religion, will be free to sneeze on their superiors. It is he who will be humiliated by I.
And so the morning came, and Cherdyakov came to humiliate he.
Next. Last.
Well, you say? Do you not recognize me, Your Excellency? Look
once again, who?
Cheryakov, Excellency. I have returned, taking neither a hot bath nor a cold one.
Who let this filthy man in? What is it?
What is it? What is it, you ask me? You sit there behind your desk and ask me, what is it? You sit there, watch it. As General and Minister of Public Parks, a member of high standing among the upper class, and ask me, a lowly civil servant, what is it? You sit there knowing full well that there is no equality in this life, that there are those of us who serve and those that are served, those of us who obey and those that are obeyed, those of us who bow and those that are bowed, and that in this life, certain events take place that cause some of us to be humiliated, and others who are the cause of that humiliation. And still you ask me, what is it?
What is it? Don't stand there gibbering like an idiot. What is it you want?
I'll tell you what I want! I want to apologize to you. It's an accident, I assure you.
Out! Out, you idiot! Fool! Imbecile! Get out of my sight! I never want to see you again! If you ever cross my line of vision again, I'll have you exiled forever! What's your name?
Cheryakov!
You jerk critter! You made it! You insect! You are lower than an insect! You are the second cousin to a cockroach! The son-in-law of a bedbug! You are the nephew of a ringworm! You are nothing! Nothing, do you hear me? Nothing!
At that moment, something broke loose inside of Cherdyakov. Something so basic, so vital, so organic, that the damage that was done seemed irreparable. The matter was over. For once, for all, forever. What happened next is quite simple. Cherdyakov arrived home, took off his coat, lay down on the sofa, and died.